Hi everyone, welcome back to my lab and today's video, which is going to be my overview of the indie brand called Adept Cosmetics. This is the brand that was introduced to me by my friend Jessica Lee Rojas Kent here on YouTube, and basically I own their entire line of eyeshadows. I've been playing with them for some time and I'm ready to share my thoughts with you. Before we get into the video, if you're new here, I'm Yori. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. I hope you're going to enjoy this one, and if so, then please consider subscribing and joining my makeup family so that you can join me for a future video. I do a lot of makeup reviews, hauls, unboxings, and all that sort of thing here on my channel, and I would love to have you join us. Thank you always to the first 5 commenters on my previous video. I really appreciate your showing my channel lab love. It really means a lot to me. I'm a really small channel and your engagement with me really helps. Not to mention that I love hearing your comments, feedback, and chatting makeup with you in the comment section. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and get into this video. I'm a little bit sad because this is actually the second time I'm filming this video. The first time I filmed it, I was so excited with the way it turned out and I realized my microphone was not on. Such a rookie mistake, but it is what it is. I really want to share my thoughts, and hopefully since this is the second time around, I'll be a little more organized. So I placed my first order with Adept Cosmetics back in August. I did share my unboxing on my Instagram stories. When I received my package, it was for their initial bundle of 72 eyeshadows that came bundled with a magnetic palette. Now the price of that bundle was $204, but I did have a discount code for 20% off, so I ended up paying $163.20 for 72 eyeshadows and a magnetic palette. The first thing I wanted to share is that the package came beautifully packaged. I mean, this was a heavy duty box and everything inside was really well padded, really well protected. The 72 shadows were all individually packaged in these small boxes, and the eyeshadows themselves are shielded inside this plastic insert inside the box. So the shades arrived absolutely pristine, no damages whatsoever. I've purchased single shadows in the past from other brands where they come in envelope, and even though that reduces the amount of packaging, I've received shades that are damaged. So it's a little bit of a trade-off, and I really appreciated having the shades so well protected. It was a little tedious opening 72 of these at a time, but I appreciated that the shades arrived completely pristine. So of those 72 shadows, there are 3 finishes in the original ones. There are matte shadows, shimmer shadows, and diamond shadows. The magnetic palette that I chose, there were a couple of variations that you can select from. I chose this one, which is kind of a marbled finish. Has the Adept Cosmetics logo here on the front, which I really like because it kind of reminds me of the Deathly Hallows from Harry Potter. I think it's simple, but really nice. And this magnetic palette, I mean, this is a heavy duty palette. I'm gonna open it up so that I can show you the shades, but I have since rearranged my eyeshadows a little bit. So the ones that you're going to be seeing in here are not necessarily the original 72 I had, but I'll describe that a little bit later on in the video. So when you open up the palette, it opens like this. So it's like a book, and you can see that you have 2 flaps on either side. So if you open the bottom one, here you have some eyeshadows, and then if you open the top, you have a very nice mirror and more eyeshadows. So what I really like about this palette is that you can really fold it any which way. So the way that I've been working with it in my vanity is I take the bottom flap and I fold it underneath like this. And then I take the top one, I fold it over. So it's kind of like propped up like this, like a Surface Pro or like a little computer. And then I'll work with my palette like this. And it's a really nice artist palette. I really like this palette. The empty palette in and of itself is just really great quality. And they had different finishes, like they had imitation crocodile, they had this one, they had a couple of variations to choose from. When I went to make my purchase, not all of them were available, but they had this one and I thought that it was quite nice. In addition to the palette, I did receive a packet of magnets so that if you are using the palette for shadows other than Adept Cosmetics shadows that maybe are not magnetized, then they give you those little magnets so that you can use your palette with those shadows. The Adept Cosmetics eyeshadows are all magnetized. And then on the back side, you do have a label with the code name for the eyeshadow. So this one is ACM30, which stands for Adept Cosmetics Matte number 30. Out of all the pans of eyeshadow that I have, I only received one that did not have the labels. All the others did have the labels. So like I mentioned, that initial bundle did have 72 eyeshadows. There were mattes, shimmers, and what they call the diamond finish. Now, I was playing around with the arrangement of my shadows for quite some time because, you know, you can customize your own palette and get really creative. And I had a lot of fun setting up my shades in a way that I found pleasing. I have since modified that since I added more shades to my collection, but it was really fun. My only frustration was that I had 72 eyeshadows, and when this specific palette is completely full, it only holds 70. So I had 2 rogue eyeshadows kind of floating around. Since this purchase, Adept Cosmetics added another finish to their line, which they're calling Iridescent, and they released that with their Plain Jane palette, which I did purchase, and it arrives in this kind of packaging. Now, with regard to the Plain Jane palette, it retails for $52. So I paid $52. Right now, that palette is available for pre-order. I believe that is being fulfilled up to January. So this is the packaging that you receive, and inside the palette is inside a plastic sleeve. When you open it up, you have a label on the back side listing it as Plain Jane. You have the ingredients, 12-month shelf life, cruelty-free and vegan brand, and you do have 3 grams total weight for each individual shadow. The front of the palette is quite pretty. It's a simple brand, so it's a very simple aesthetic. It's black and then it has some like shiny finished roses on it. I think it's quite beautiful in a simple way. When you open it up, there is a mirror inside the palette. There is a plastic sleeve that covers the shades, and you do have the shade names written right on the palette. And this follows their naming scheme like they had in the other shadows. So this is ACI number 7. So this is Adept Cosmetics Iridescent number 7. So this entire palette introduced a new formulation to the Adept Cosmetics line. These are a very special finish of eyeshadow. I'm going to include swatches of everything in this palette so that you can see. They're more of duochrome specialty finish eyeshadows that are beautiful layered over other eyeshadows. They have a slightly oilier texture. I find that they apply best with my finger, and if layering them over other shadows, I do find that they have really good staying power. I do apply setting spray after I'm done applying my makeup, and I haven't experienced any trouble with that. So this is Plain Jane. After the release of Plain Jane, they added 4 new iridescent shades to their collection, and those were being sold individually as a bundle for $28. So I did purchase those, and in addition to that, I did buy an additional magnetic palette because at this point I have 4 separate shades plus the 2 that didn't fit in my original palette. So for this smaller palette, I paid $12 and I chose this white croc kind of finish. It arrives in this box. It's a simple box as I mentioned, and here's what the palette looks like when you open it up. I have my shades inside there. There's a mirror and the Adept Cosmetics label is there. The nice thing about this palette, it did have this insert which could be placed there and you could have very nicely allocated 10 shades, but I opted to remove it, rearrange all my shadows, and I came up with a very good arrangement in my opinion. I was also sharing it on my Instagram stories. I took apart my original palette, I added all the new ones, and I started rearranging everything all over again. So I'm going to share the arrangement that I ended up with. In this smaller palette, I decided to include all of the diamond finishes. So these are from the original 72 pan bundle, and these are the diamond finish as I mentioned. So those are living in the smaller palette. And then what I opted to do was in the larger palette, at the top, I decided to include all of the mattes and I decided to arrange them in numerical order. Now you should be aware that not all the numbers are sequential. It skips here or there, but I do own all of the shadows that are currently in their inventory, and that's all the matte formulas right there. At the bottom, I decided to put all of these shimmer formulas. So all of the shimmer formulas are these up here, and the 4 brand new singles in the iridescent formula are down here at the bottom. So this arrangement is working out really well for me. I'm really enjoying my Adept Cosmetics shadows. As far as I can tell from the materials that I have, on the inside of the individual eyeshadows, you can see the ingredient list and that the eyeshadows are made in the PRC. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, my friend Jessica actually actually introduced me to this brand. She also had the original 72 eyeshadows, and she did a beautiful swatch video on her channel, which I will link in the description box down below, in which she swatched with her fingers and a brush all 72 of the original shades. So that's going to be all of the mattes, all of the shimmers, and all of the diamonds. So you can see all of those shades swatched out individually if you check out her video. Since these are the newer additions to the line, I'm going to swatch out Plain Jane for you and show you finger swatches on my dry arms so that you can see those, as well as the 4 new Iridescent single shadows. Before I get into a demonstration of how the eyeshadows perform, I wanted to mention a little bit more about the ordering experience. Adept Cosmetics has shipped using USPS as well as UPS. The packages have been consistently well packaged. Everything arrives safe and sound. Very fast shipping as well. I also had a question regarding my order, which I reached out on the Instagram page, and the owner actually responded to me very, very quickly, and she took the incentive to go research the situation that I mentioned, and she resolved my issue very, very quickly. It was nothing major, just a little bit of confusion on my part. But I just wanted to share that I had a positive experience with the brand owner, much like I did with Bristles Beauty when I reviewed their makeup brushes, and I also had a question regarding that order. And I think that's something that's really great about indie brands, that they may not stock as much product as we would like. Their prices may not be as low as we would like. We do have to pay for shipping from a lot of them unless we reach a certain tier. But there is a lot of personal attention when someone is just starting out their brand, and that's something that I really appreciated. The owner was really, really nice to me. And also, if you look at their Instagram, you're going to see that their Instagram is featuring their customers. They are reposting their customers' makeup looks, their customers' swatches, and images of the products. And I think that that is really, really nice. Their page is super inclusive, and you're going to see familiar faces there. Like Jessica's face is definitely there. I also noticed Colorful Camille. I noticed Cara C, as well as some other familiar faces from YouTube on their page. Even I've shared the looks that I've created. I shared this earlier today, and they immediately reposted me to their stories. They're just really, really engaged with their customer base, and I really, really appreciate that. I really think that that's a really good mark of someone who cares about their brand and cares about their customers. Now let's go ahead and get into the demo. I'm going to show you 2 different eye looks. The first one is going to be a green halo eye, and the second will be the look that I'm wearing right now. The videos are going to focus on the eyeshadow itself, and if you're interested in any of the other products that I'm wearing in the different looks, I will put those in the description box down below so you can check them out. So let's go ahead and get into those demos. Let's go ahead and work on creating this eye look. If you can believe it, I used 4 shades to create this look, 5 if you count the brow bone highlight, which you could barely see. And you're going to be shocked when I show you the eyeshadow that's on my lid. So I'm going to put the colors I'm using on the screen because this palette is quite large. I'm sure I already showed you in the intro, but let me show you what I'm working with here. So that's half of the palette, and that's the other half of the palette. It's quite a large palette, and I have it propped up here in my vanity. It's really nice, but it's going to be difficult for me to show you the color that I'm using each and every time. So I'm starting out with a mossy green. I will put the number on the screen so you know which shades I'm working with. This is a matte shade, and I'm working on creating a halo eye. My right eye, which I've already done off camera, is just a tad irritated because I removed my eye look a couple of times, and it's a funny story as to why I did that. It wasn't that I didn't like the look, it was just not what I was expecting. And I did it a couple of times and it was not what I was expecting. So finally I decided to just work with what was happening, and this is the look that I created. I was trying to create a peachy look, but I ended up creating a green look, and you all know how much I love green eyeshadows, so I'm not really mad at that. So you can see I'm starting out just a shape for a halo eye, and I'm using a Wayne Goss 03 brush for this. Next, I'm going to take a deeper green shade. It's more like a forest green shade, but it also has a little bit of that mossy type of look to it, and that's what I'm going to use to deepen out the outer corner. And as usual, when I'm demonstrating new shadows for you all, I did prime using the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion, and I haven't had any issues with that. Now I'm going back into the original green and I'm just going to diffuse the edges a little bit. These two blend together so nicely. I will go back and intensify the inner and outer corner after I apply the center spotlight shades, but I want to kind of get the look going before I do that. So I am going to apply a shimmer in the center, and this is the one I'm going to use. Again, I'm going to put the name of the shade on the screen for you, and believe it or not, this shade is almost completely unnecessary. You can barely see it underneath the other shade that I'm going to apply. So this is one of the ones that are in their shimmer formula, and I'm finding quite a bit of variety amongst those shades. They're definitely buildable, but some of them are more pigmented than others. Some of them are more metallic, some of them are more sheer. Here's what that shade looks like applied to the eye. Very pretty, kind of true green shimmer shade. The eye look is very pretty as it is, and I can definitely finesse it and call it done, but let me show you what is creating this beautiful shine. Wait for it. This shadow has really tried me today. It drew my attention immediately when I was setting up my palette today, and I wanted to create my look around this one, and I hadn't swatched them yet, and I expected it to be peach. I mean, see? I expected it to be peach. And so I was creating my look anticipating a peach shimmer, and every time I applied it, it turned green. So I know you're going to assume that the reason why it's gonna look green is because I'm applying it over a green shade. Not the case. Absolutely not the case. This eyeshadow turns green over anything. And I mean, I can't be mad at it, because if I was going to come back as an eyeshadow in another life, I would also elect to be a green shadow. So this little shade can go ahead and live its best life and be green. But look at that, it looks peach. I'm going to definitely try it over other shades because it's such a stunning shadow, but look. Look at that. The shimmer of it is so beautiful. When you touch it also, it feels a little bit like a putty type shadow. It's not a liquid shadow, but it has that putty kind of tendency to it. So if you look at the shadow on my finger, it still looks peach, but I promise you, no matter what I layered this shadow on, it wanted to turn green. And now that I'm working with it rather than against it, I absolutely love it. It's beautiful, beautiful. So I'm going to take the darker shade and I'm just going to intensify on the outer corner a little bit and the inner corner, so I still have the spotlight going. My eye is watering. I could never do multiple eye looks in one day. It's just too difficult for me with how sensitive my eyes are. I'm gonna have to touch that one up because you can see the shadow has left my eye where my eye is watering, and that's not the shadow's fault. That's just my issues with my eyes. So that was the darker green shade, and now I'm going to finish it off with that mossy green just on the outer edges. Look how beautiful. Just 4 eyeshadows, and this look looks really detailed. I did use a matte brow bone highlight. It's just a cream colored shade, and I just apply that right underneath the brow. I clean up my brows with concealer anyway, so that kind of creates that look just the same, and then I blend it out just a little bit with the other shadow so it's not as harsh. And that's pretty much it for the look. I did add liner, no wing liner, just over my lashes, and that's Benefit Roller Liner and Too Faced Better Than Sex Mascara. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that to this eye. I'll give this eye a little bit of a rest so I can touch up the inner corner, and I will be back to do the lower lash line. So this is how we're going to finish off the eye look. I'm going to start with the mossy green shade, and I'm using the Sonia G Mini Booster Brush, and I'm just going to apply that on the inner and outer part of my eye. This is actually the brush I was using for the darker shade on the upper part of my eye, but it's not pointed enough for me to use it on the darker shade on the lower lash line. I don't want to blow it out too far. So that's the lighter of the two greens, and then I'm going to take a Sonia G Pencil 1, and that's the one I'm going to use for the deeper shade. I'm going to use the Iridescent shade on the lower part in the center, and you're gonna see that it's gonna try to make a liar out of me and look peach at first, and then right away it's gonna start to look green again. I can't wait to play with this shade a little bit more because I have a feeling that it's going to be a chameleon of sorts. So you can see this time around, I didn't apply it over a green metallic and it still looks green. So now I'm intensifying the outer part of the eye. I did end up applying black liner and lower lash mascara as well. So here you have your finished first look. Unfortunately, my eye has continued to water, but it is what it is. I'm used to it. I'm going to keep touching it up as best as I can so that I can get a good photo of this look because it's so pretty. It was so simple to do with such few eyeshadows, but because of that one really special shade, I think that it looks really, really nice. Kind of festive. I really like it. Of course, I'm partial to green eyeshadow looks, so it's not surprising. With these videos, I like to focus on the eyeshadow, but I will link the other products that I have on my face in the description box in case you're interested in any of those. So far, so good. I look forward to keep playing with my Adept eyeshadows. Okay, so this is the look that we're going to work on today. I intentionally didn't apply mascara or anything like that since it's such a graphic look. I wanted to make sure I can match the shape on the other eye. And my strategy with this one was to use matte colored shadows of the same shades that I'm going to use the shimmers to kind of sketch out the look. A pro makeup artist probably wouldn't have to do that, but I'm not a pro. So I'm just going to show you again the shades that I'm going to use, and then I will put the numbers on the screen. So here are the shades. For the pink, I use the shade right here. For the blue, I use the deepest blue. And for the purple, I'm going to be using that one. I almost forgot to prime my eyes. For my primer, I'm using my Fenty Beauty primer, and I know I've complained about this primer in the past because my shadows don't blend over it really well. They kind of stick down and then they don't want to blend, but for a look like this that's very graphic, then that kind of eyeshadow base is actually ideal because I'm not doing any kind of blending along the edges. I actually want my shadows to stick as good as I can get them to stick. I'm going to work lightest to darkest so I can use the same brush. I'm using the Bodyography Pro Angled Liner Brush. This is something I got in my BoxyCharm, but it is definitely something, you know, that you can substitute any angled liner brush or even like an eyebrow brush. And as you can see, I'm just kind of sketching out the shape. And since my eyes are hooded, I'm kind of looking downward a little bit as well to make sure that the colors are still going to be visible even when my eyes are closed. So now I'm going into the purple shade and I'm going to continue the shape. Again, making sure that it's visible when my eyes are closed. I'm following the general shape of my lid, and then when I get to the blue, I'm going to wing it outward. So I think I'm going to start by creating the wing to try to ensure I get the closest shape possible. Right, that's pretty good. I think the other one is a little bit longer, and I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is roughly the correct shape, as you can see. So then I switched to a Sephora Collection Pro Shader, and this is just a little tiny baby shader brush. So let me show you the metallic colors that I'm going to use. So for my metallic colors, I'm going to use this one for the pink, this one for the purple, and that one right there for the blue. Again, I will put your color names up on the screen. All right, so I'm going to use the same strategy and I'm going to work lightest to darkest. So you can see I'm starting with that pink shade and I'm just using slight stamping and then swiping motions to press the color on. I did use topper shades just so that I can demonstrate some of their other finishes as well, since they have so many pretty finishes, but you can definitely do it just with the metallic colors. Next, I'm going in with some of that purple shade, and again, I'm going to be using those stamping motions, and I'm also making sure to blend forward a little bit so that it blends with the pink. Also, because the matte color was not the exact same shade, I'm kind of going over the line, but I'm being very careful not to pass it up because again, I want this to be a very sharp line. And we're going to finish off with the blue, and I'm going to use the blue on the outer edge, but I'm not going to wing it out because I'm going to complete the wing portion with the matte shadow. I just wanted to have a little bit of a transition in the shimmers from the purple to the outer corner. And again, since I'm kind of working lightest to darkest, I'm using the same brush and I'm just kind of color switching in between. Again, when it comes to the transition, I am brushing a little bit of that blue into the purple. Next, I'm taking a very small blending brush. This one is by Makeup Geek and it is called the Defined Crease Brush. And I'm going to take that blue matte shadow and I am going to kind of fill in the tail portion. One of the things I noticed with the mattes is that you can really build them up so you don't get the intense pigmentation that you see in the pan right away, but you can definitely build it up. And that's how it would look without any of the topper shades, which it's still very, very pretty. It's just a slightly different vibe. And like I said, I wanted to show you some of the topper eyeshadows. So I'm going to go into some of these diamond finishes here and I'm going to play with some of those tones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this one for the color that you're seeing on the inner corner, and this has a lot of pink shimmer but also purple, which is why it changed the color. It actually reminds me a lot of the Iridescent formula in terms of the texture because it feels almost like a ColourPop Super Shock shadow, like a little bit jelly-like. It feels a little bit different than the others. So I'm actually going to put them on my fingers so you can see. I'm going to use my left hand actually so that I can get a better finish. But in any case, the colors that I'm using are the ones that are here on the angle. So I'm using that one for the pink, that one for the purple, this one down here for the blue. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply those on my fingertips. So you can see them here on my fingertips and you can see how this pink one has kind of a more sheer texture to it and the other two are really, really bright metallics. So I'm going to start with the lighter color and I'm going to lightly stamp that over the inner corner portion and you can already see the difference in the shimmer. It's so much fun to play with these textures. So then for the purple, I'm using this one on my middle finger and again, I'm just kind of stamping over where I had the purple shadow. Now this one doesn't have the same kind of shimmer that the original shade had, which is why I mentioned that the textures are slightly different. Like there's some variations within each of the different finish families. And lastly, I'm going to use this nice bright blue right where the purple meets the blue. And in my opinion, this kind of just gives it a brighter, more metallic finish. And now you can see that the shimmer matches on both sides. Now I'm going in with that liner brush and I'm just kind of detailing the edges. And I'm using the metallic shades that are corresponding to the colors I'm working on in my eye to make sure that the blend is happening where I actually placed my shadows. And that's since it was slightly different on each side. So this is going to be the finished look in terms of eyeshadows. I'm going to finish my eyes. I think I'm going to apply a pair of false lashes and I will probably use liner just at the base of the lashes, no wing or anything because I don't want anything to distract from this look, but I think it is so pretty and the textures are just a lot of fun to play with. I forgot one small step and that is that since I have a lot of discoloration on my eyelid, I actually like to apply the bone color shade above all that work that I did and I'm just applying it all the way to my eyebrows, and this is just to give me a little bit of coverage so that it doesn't look disjointed when I apply foundation and everything, and you can see the discoloration on my eyelids. I did that on the other side as well. You just have to be really careful not to move the shimmers around because you don't want that part shimmering. I actually took a little piece of tape and I was removing a little bit of shimmer on the other side. Of course, this wouldn't be an issue if I had put this down first, but I didn't want to set the eyeshadow base in any kind of way. Now we're officially finished with the eyeshadows. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish off my look, do the rest of the makeup, and I will come back to show you the final look. So this is your finished look. I actually ended up putting a little bit of something on the lower lash line only because I actually finished off my makeup look. I decided not to use false lashes to really let the graphic eyeshadow show, but then my lower lashes, I put mascara on the lower lashes and they looked out of place because my lower lashes are actually pretty long. So what I did was I carried the matte colors in the same order. So I did blue, purple to pink, and I just stamped like tiny bits underneath my lashes to kind of balance the weight of the top and not make my lower lashes stand out so much. So I'm sorry I didn't show that part, but it's pretty simple. Pretty much the same way I drew out the shape. I just lined my lower lash line, and this is the finished look at the end of the day. Actually, I've been wearing it for hours now and it looks just as beautiful and sparkly as it did when I put it on. I hope I'm able to capture a good picture of it because I struggle taking pictures of my makeup. I don't edit or do Photoshop or any of that stuff because I have a hard enough time getting my videos filmed and edited without adding extra responsibility on top of it. So I don't edit my photos. So I just take a whole bunch and I pick the best one. So hopefully I'm able to photograph this one nicely because I love it so, so much. Now I'll go ahead and zoom out and I'll share my thoughts on the collection. All right, hopefully you enjoyed seeing how I created the looks. I would love to hear what you thought about the different looks and which one was your favorite. Now what I'd like to do is go over the different eyeshadow textures and let you know my thoughts and my opinions regarding on where you should start if you're interested in checking out the brand. So I want to start by talking to you about the matte finish. Now obviously I haven't used every single eyeshadow in my collection here. I have so many. I literally have enough eyeshadow here to last me forever. So I'm just basing my experience on the eyeshadows that I've used so far. What I find about the shadows is that they're very nice. They do kick up a tiny little amount of powder in the pan, but you don't have too much fallout. And I personally do my eyeshadow first anyway, so that's not something that ever really bothers me. I do find that the eyeshadows are pigmented, but you have to build them up. They start out a lot more sheer and you do have to build them up to get the desired intensity. So for instance, the color that I have on the outer corner of my eye is this blue, which is the darkest blue in the palette. And I did have to build it up 2 or 3 times to get the desired look. And it is reflective of what you're seeing in the pan. So it's something that you're going to be building up. The texture of the shades is a little bit more of a dry formula, but in my opinion, that enhances the blendability. There is one shade, which is this one here, which has a little bit more of a satin finish in my personal opinion, just from looking at it. And Jessica mentioned that in her video as well. So there is a slight variation even among the matte shades. So it's a very nice matte formula. It's a buildable formula. So you start out sheer and you can build up the color as you go. The color selection is also very, very nice. I love this palette. It's like a little transformer. Let's talk about the shimmer shades next. And I think that they actually call these metallics. Let me take a quick look. No, they're called shimmers. Okay, so the shimmer shades are the ones that you're seeing in the top 4 rows here in my palette. The look that I created today incorporated the purples, the pink, the purple, and the blue, and I tried to demonstrate how they look without the topper shades applied. They still look beautiful, but they're more of a metallic shimmer finish. The color selection again is really nice. You have a nice mixture of colorful jewel tones as well as neutrals in both cool and warm tones. They apply very well with a brush, as you saw. Now these are shades that you can definitely foil and intensify if you're one that works with your eyeshadows damp. I personally cannot do that because of my eye sensitivity, so I never dampen my eyeshadow brush. You saw that I applied the metallics or the shimmer shades over my Fenty Beauty eyeshadow primer today because that eyeshadow primer really gets shadows to stick to it, and I get a really good color density with that eyeshadow primer. You also saw in the other look I was working with the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion, and the mattes blended beautifully over that one as well. So it's a very nice shimmer formula and one that I truly enjoy. So now from their original formulas, let's talk about the diamond finish, which I have in my smaller palette here. And these are some of those topper shades that you saw me work with today. Now, even within the diamond finishes, I feel that there's a slight variation. So for instance, this shade right here, which is the one that I applied to my inner corner, feels and performs a lot more like the iridescence rather than the diamonds. On the other hand, the purple and the blue performed very much like the typical diamond finish. So there is a little bit of variability here, but all of the shades that I've worked with look beautiful layered over other shades. It really gives it that added special touch that will make the people ask you, what's on your eyes? I've had that question asked when I'm using these eyeshadows on my Instagram stories. What's on your eyes? And it's these topper shades. They're so beautiful. This is definitely a good place to start if you are interested in trying out the brand. So these are the diamond finishes. So again, all of those finishes that I just mentioned, Jessica has brush and finger swatches on her channel. Video linked down below. Now let's move on to their more recent finishes, which is the iridescent finish in the Plain Jane palette. This is a beautiful palette and one that I would definitely recommend picking up. This is obviously a pairing palette, but it is going to be the one that's going to take your eye look to the next level. I really feel that it made a difference in my eye look when I applied those iridescents, especially in the green look that I was wearing in the first demonstration. You can see the difference that these topper shades make on an eye look. It really makes it truly special, something really eye-catching, glimmery, and refined. So I really think think that this is something that you can add to your collection and use with the things that you already have to get that special finish. And like I said, this is available on their website for pre-order right now. And the same goes with the new Iridescent. Now again, there's variability here where shade number 15 is something else. I shared my experience with that one when I did the first demo. It is such an intriguing shade. If you only want to pick up one, that's the one that I recommend. This is ACI 15. Beautiful, beautiful shade. I also think that the magnetic palettes are great. I really love this Transformer palette, and I feel that my shadows are so well protected there. You know, I may look like I'm fumbling around with it right now, but I'm trying not to hit the camera and I'm trying to get it in frame as well. But when I'm working on it, when I'm working with it on my vanity, I'm absolutely perfectly comfortable. So these are my thoughts on Adept Cosmetics. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's something that I didn't address in the comment section down below, and I'll do my best to answer as best as I can. If this is your first introduction to the brand, then definitely check them out on Instagram and let them know that I sent you. You know, I like to share my support for different brands, and this is one that has really impressed me. If you've tried this one out, I definitely love to hear your thoughts down below as well. Thank you so much for joining me for yet another video. If you did enjoy this one, then please don't forget that big thumbs up. It really helps me out, and share my video with another makeup lover in your life that might enjoy it. I really appreciate your spending a few minutes of your day with me. I hope you're doing really, really well, and I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon on my next one. Bye-bye.